Introduce the speaker of this session. I will now hand over the microphone to Professor at the Royal Danish Academy, Mrs. Anne Beim. Please, Anne.
Everyone. Okay, I'll try again. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. On the behalf of the Royal Danish Academy Institute of Architecture and Technology and the Rebuilding Pavilion team, whose pavilion you can visit in the Exhibition Hall E, right out here, I have the great pleasure to introduce the architect, the architectural historian, the heritage conservationist, and not the least, a humanitarian and a sustainability role model, Yasmeen Lari. I also want to thank the foundation of Realdania to invite Yasmeen Lari to talk today. When you look at Yasmeen Lari's work, you find an extraordinary and inspiring engagement in architecture that is regionally based, but that has a global outreach. Her work shows multiple interests and presents a variety of projects that are deeply rooted in the cultural traditions of building, occupied with aspects of social equality that aim at sustainable solutions relating to people's lives, and specific contextual settings. Yasmeen Lari is born in Pakistan, but moved to London with her family as a teenager. In 1964, she graduated from School of Architecture, Oxford Brookes University, and she returned to Pakistan the same year in the age of 23 to establish Lari Associates with her husband, Suhail Sahir Lari. In 1980, Lari also co-founded the Heritage Foundation of Pakistan with her husband. The mission of the Heritage Foundation of Pakistan is to document and conserve the traditional and historical built environment of Pakistan, create an awareness of Pakistan's rich and diverse historic architecture and art, to promote cultural heritage for social integration, peace, and development. During almost 60 years of practicing architecture, Lari has designed numerous commercial buildings and dwellings, in particular dwellings. Already in 1973, Lari designed Pakistan's first social housing scheme, Anguri Bagh, which included 787 dwellings for low-income families. After retiring her architectural practice in 2000, she has devoted herself to the humanitarian efforts of the Heritage Foundation of Pakistan and to building disaster-resistant homes for some of Pakistan's most marginalized communities. Since 2010, she has built more than 50,000 Pakistani homes for humanitarian causes, such as the victims of the earthquakes and flooding. Lari has also developed a system of distributing knowledge across rural communities and empowering them to self-build and discover indigenous materials and techniques. This way of approaching architecture, Lari calls barefoot social architecture, BASA, that is aiming to achieve climate resilience, sustainability, and eco-justice in the world. It focuses on improving the lives of disadvantaged communities through low-cost, low-carbon, and zero-waste materials and building technologies. Today, Lari is still active in historical preservation by serving as advisor of UNESCO and has been published among 60 women who have contributed to the most towards UNESCO's objectives. Yasmeen Lari is greatly recognized in Pakistan and internationally for her work, and she has been awarded several esteemed prizes, and just to mention a few. In 2016, she was awarded the Fukuyama Prize, which honor the individuals who have made contributions to the field of Asian studies, art, and culture, which include to preserve, nurture, and promote the harmonious coexistence of Asian cultures. In 2020, she received the Jane Drew Prize for her contribution to raising the profile of women in architecture and design. And finally, in 2023, this year, she was awarded RIBA's Royal Gold Medal in recognition of her humanitarian work since retiring in 2000. When Yasmeen Lari received the RIBA Royal Gold Medal, she said in an interview, and I quote, "Architects must stop waiting for commissions from wealthy clients and prioritize designing for the planet. Architects have a very important role to play," unquote. Altogether, we are looking forward to hear more about this. Please welcome Yasmeen Lari.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful work.
Thank you so much, Professor Anna, for that very kind introduction. Good morning, everybody, and assalamu alaikum. Hello, friends from around the world and the wonderful city of Copenhagen, UNESCO World Capital of Architecture 2023, and your warm hospitality. I bring you greetings from Pakistan. Thank you, International Union of Architects, for holding this remarkable gathering dedicated to sustainable futures, focusing on the SDGs, so that no one, even those living on the margins, are left behind. Thank you, our tireless president, architect Neteri Mohsin, and your superb team for giving me the privilege to be part of this amazing assembly of architects representing diverse regions who are determined to create a carbon-neutral world and to play a central role in stitching the frayed tapestry of the earth. This particular focus of the Congress underscores the contributions that architects can and must make to save the planet from misuse. This particular focus of the Congress underscores the contributions that architects will continue to do so. So good to see here so many new friends, and so many old ones also, that I have made from different countries in just a few last days. I hope Pakistan Sharjah Fair, Dr. Shumaila is here, and so many young architects full of optimism. I see such lovely faces of women and young men who are really so bright and want to change the world, really. And they're full of optimism. And the international group who have been engaged in the Rebuilding Pavilion, led by Ingeborg and Adam. It's amazing to go and see that and to participate in their tea ceremony, so inclusive and wanting to welcome everybody. And wonderful displays by international institutes of architects and generous sponsors such as Realdania. And the impressive research work of the Royal Danish Academy, of reconstituted wood, and so many other natural materials. The experiment with seaweed, the mycelia, and Hasti's eggshells. It is all so exciting. I thank you all for being here in this session, to be with me here today, in discussing how to create sustainable eco-communities when millions of climate migrants are devastated as a result of major natural disasters. A couple of years ago, I had said in my manifesto published a couple of years ago in London Design magazine, and I said, today we live in an era that is beset with fragmentation and disruptions. It is a world ravaged by rising poverty levels and increasing disparities, depletion of the Earth's resources, and climate change impact. In the new world order, greenhouse gas emissions, recurring disasters, climate emergencies, and climate migrants, and also conflict-impelled refugees everywhere, in every country literally, the displaced and the homeless, all require innovative design solutions. Under such challenging circumstances, when many countries in the world will be unable to meet UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs for why we are gathering here today, it is the part of design that is in demand for serving the other 99%. I would like to put it to you, to this August gathering, that it is not only the privileged who have a right to enjoy well-designed environments. The disadvantaged and those that live on the margins need more, not less design. They need the best architects to be there to achieve a better quality of life for them. It is the majority that today remain unserved or underserved. and seek the attention of architects and the creation of humanized developments. Through the application of rights-based solutions, we must think of human rights when we think of architecture. We have to see how we can access, all that for the people. And, because make no mistake, architecture is a powerful tool for fulfilling primary and unmet needs of a vast majority of people who inhabit this planet. I believe the time has come when we must develop a framework for a change direction in architecture. A majority of us need to relinquish the desire, if I might say, to create imposing megastructures, which have traditionally been commissioned by the likes of the sophisticated Medicis of Florence, the unscrupulous robber barons of East India Company, the eco-indulgent merchant princes of Industrial Revolution, and the present day's exploitative multinationals that promote high carbon lifestyles. We are all aware of the damage caused by the colonial mindset to the Earth's ecosystem due to wasteful and highly consumptive ways of living and building, as well as excessive use of Earth's resources promoted by the unscrupulous capitalist system. We are here to work out ways to deal with social injustices in the global south. Equally, I think we have to combat what I call ecological injustices and eco-bigotry that is prevalent in the global north. With its lofty ideals and trained mostly to serve the elite, as we've done for past decades, architectural profession is now seeking a change in direction, because more than any other time, young architects, as citizens of a changing world, are seeking a divergent course in practice of architecture. So, by bestowing the great honor of the Royal Gold Medal on my work as the architect for the poorest of the poor, that's the title I really like, in a brave move, the Royal Institute of British Architects, the committee, and the British monarch have legitimized the path for architects to serve those who live on the borders. They have sent a powerful message that architects do not any longer need to vie for the attention of the privileged and the wealthy, but equally to be ready to serve humanity now. It is my belief that the time has come for a majority of architects and other built environment professionals to play a significant role in healing the planet. We have to work to heal it now. On the one hand, that requires that we lower the carbon footprint in all that we create, and on the other, to reach out to serve the vast number of disadvantaged populations. So I will start my slides, and if I may see whether it works. Seems to work, okay. So as Professor Anna has said, this is the organization I run, which is not for-profit social and cultural entrepreneur organization. And really, since 2005, it provides humanitarian assistance. So this is what we do. We link heritage with any work that we do. And so as you might be aware, I'm a committed proponent of learning from heritage. I would like to show you a glimpse of rich heritage that Pakistan possesses. And Pakistan is custodian of really diverse heritage, ranging from a rich collection of tangible heritage that begins with Bronze Age, World Heritage, Mohenjo-daro, Hindu, Buddhist, and Sikh remains during the centuries preceding 14th century Sultanate period sites such as Makli World Heritage, 16th century Mughal forts and palaces, and paradisal gardens, and a shared heritage of the British colonial period of 19th and early 20th century, all lending a diversity to our cultural legacy that is not found in many countries. The intangible heritage has shaped the lives of our people that is all-pervading and includes Sufi traditions and spiritualism, folklore and folk traditions, oral history and diverse crafts, many still being practiced by rural women that have been passed on to them from generation to generation, from mother to mother. And then the vernacular heritage, from where I have learned the use of sustainable materials, local sourcing, ease of handling, economical in use, and one that is based on age-old local wisdom. And so, it is ironic that even though belonging to the third world, during 36 years of private practice, barring a few projects, I had indulged in an extravagant, egotistical journey which focused on serving the elite of my country. And you can see the building that I built, but it was in the 1980s. I wouldn't do them today. So, So it's after I had brought to a close my career as a prominent architect from 2005, recurring disasters in Pakistan forced my attention towards the vast marginalized sections of my country. As a result of the understanding that I developed regarding the challenges to the ecosystem of the earth by the way I designed, it was the interaction with poverty-stricken, vulnerable populations that forced me to dispense with my hugely inflated ego, obligating me to swallow the bitter pill of humility by sitting at the threshold of the poor, exploring their age-old practices. Learning from Pakistan's pre-industrial vernacular heritage, I understood that design is not a standalone activity. It must be underpinned by considerations of social impact and ecological sustainability. So I thought I'll bring a few examples for you, as our focus is on sustainable future. I wanted to present to you a few examples of traditional methodologies, which are zero energy mechanisms for regulating microclimate that reduce energy consumption. Some of the principles are based on natural devices for creation of microclimate within buildings that can be drawn from traditional environments. Now, as you see, on the left is the book that I actually documented in 1979. We did the work, and I wrote about it of historic town of Thatta. And you can see the distinctive wind catchers and how it draws cool air into the building. So that is one mechanism that can still be very useful. And then the next one, this is this beautiful mansion in the walled city of Peshawar, 19th century. I had the privilege to conserve, and the courtyard configuration creates its own microclimate within buildings without relying on any mechanical means, as you can see. At night, cool air stored in the atrium keeps the surrounding rooms and during much of the day as well. So, and then there is the Lahore Fort on the right, actually. And in the early 2000s, on behalf of UNESCO, I had the opportunity to co-author the master plan for World Heritage Lahore Fort, where water fountains in introverted atriums cool the surrounding structures. And then, okay, you can also see really on the left, the beautiful Shalimar Gardens, the paradisal garden of the 17th century. And it's all methodologies to use natural means to be able to really regulate the microclimate. So, now because of widespread deficits and deprivations, particularly among women in my country, for me the pursuit for justice has been paramount. And the reason why I decided to design a stratagem called barefoot social architecture, as Professor Anna mentioned, or Bazaar for the disadvantaged, I felt empathy with those who walked barefoot and had become my fellow travelers. While the notion of being barefoot may be strange for many living in more affluent countries like yourselves, where we are here today, for me, barefoot is a common sight in our rural areas. It demonstrates the harshness of life, but it has its benefits. You are able to tread softly on Earth and grow up using planet's resources with care. It reminds us that all of us have to learn to use the Earth's resources judiciously. So, now we'll go on to Bazaar and what it's about for social and ecological justice and provide dignity and ownership to common people. And it also has to be women-centered because that's the way it leads the whole thing. So by devising barefoot social architecture of Bazaar, I've been able to develop strategies fulfilling the unmet needs of the vast majority who've never been taken seriously, unfortunately. I found that by focusing on the issue of resilience and sustainability and using locally sourced materials as well as low-impact, low-tech practices through participatory mechanisms, it is possible to achieve both social and ecological justice that I mentioned earlier. So what is Bazaar? Bazaar is akin to social engineering for bringing about social change, incorporating, basically environmental, cultural, and technical dimensions, resulting in transformation of mindset from a cycle of dependency to a culture of pride and self-reliance. On the one hand, Bazaar seeks to democratize architecture that provides people with well-being, dignity, and also self-esteem. On the other, it unashamedly promotes zero-carbon footprint structures, using ubiquitous earth, conservative magic lime, and renewable bamboo. While working with marginalized communities, I've stumbled upon many design opportunities, unclaimed before. People had not thought about using them. They're all there in the pursuit of fulfilling the exigencies of social and ecological well-being. So it's not surprising that I should have become an advocate of zero carbon methodologies, because some years ago I researched the UNEP studies and I saw the damage that the built environment is being used to cause to the planet. And so this slide shows you, it's been mentioned actually in many other talks as well, something like 38 to 40% of all emissions are because of the way that we build today. So I just bring it to your notice once again, because I think this is the key for all of us to understand how we need to now change the way that we look at the world, that we look at buildings, and how we design them. So for me, there are two gurus to whom I owe a lot, actually. There is Hassan Fathy, the Earth Guru, author of Architecture for the Poor, who taught me the value of engaging them to unleash their creativity. How many are familiar with Hassan Fathy, if I might ask? Well, not that many. So we have to, maybe it's a good idea for us to look at him again. You know, there have been some giants in our field whom we've kind of not really acknowledged a lot of times. And although I don't mention him, John Turner is another one, and Ivan Illich and so on. So we need to be looking at them, I think, a little bit more carefully today. So the next one is the one that you must know, is Marcus Vitruvius, the Roman, ancient Roman, from whom I learned the use of lime, as well as the importance of air, water, earth, and fire. 4 elements, the alchemy of which leads us to democratic norms and behavior. And he's also worth looking back again to. So I thought I'd bring you this slide to introduce the 3 materials that I have used in my humanitarian architecture to achieve carbon neutral structures. So in this slide, you can see the attributes of all these materials. Coincidentally, the use of such materials is the very route that needs to be taken if the depletion of the planet's resources are to be forestalled, and if global warming is to be minimized, the route to zero or low ecological footprint. And now with so much research that I see here as well in so many other universities, I think it needs to be shared with practitioners so that every one of us have more alternatives to be able to play around with when we design our buildings. So as you might be aware, a clay does not have to be burnt in fire to attain strength. The combination of earth, water, and sunlight provides a building material of great value. The ever-present earth is most freely available in many countries, especially of the global, in South really, in the whole of South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and I don't know how many others, even in Europe actually. And it's really used most around the world, but by the poor mostly. It wasn't always the case. The medieval times are there for us to see they were used by everybody. So, we need to maybe looking at all this again. And the second material is lime. It's hewn as a rock, as you know, which the alchemy of fire transforms into an unparalleled force that has provided strength to the Roman aqueducts, if you look back, and the impregnable 15th century Timurid forts. Once common earth and lime are mixed together, water provides a strength that cannot be surpassed by any other material, and the least by Portland cement. So why don't we give up Portland cement when it does so much damage? So lime also absorbs carbon from the air, and through what is known as the lime cycle, as you must know, comprising sequence of change in its form from burning, slaking, and hardening, and returning to its original carbonate form. And so, this is something, the materials that we should be looking into. This amazing product is nurtured by soil and water and has incomparable characteristics. Technically classified as a grass, it provides a crop every 2 to 3 years. And due to its resilience and ease of use and being among the largest renewable resources, it is the mainstay of my seismic and flood-proof structures. That's how I am able to build strong ones. So just to give you a glimpse of what I've been doing, this structure was built in 2011, which is based on lime brick foundations, earth masonry walls, and bamboo roof joists, and led to placing Pakistan in the forefront as the largest zero carbon shelter program in the world. And then There are more examples that follow, and of course, with the work that we've been doing over the years, we've really probably built more than 55,000, but it's all co-building with the people, not by myself. And so there are some more examples that I'd like to just very quickly flip through, where it is co-building when, basically my design is converted to something extraordinary by people who will, collaborate and who will actually then beautify them and personalize them themselves. And so this is quite a famous one now, the World Habitat winner, the Pakistan Chula, which is a stove. It's an earthen stove, and it is placed on a platform of earth. And basically, it is what gives dignity to women. Because I think we must remember that architecture is such a powerful tool to give agency to those who have nothing. And we can use it in a very effective manner. But we have to give up control and let other people take over, but without compromising the strength of whatever you might do. So here we are, and then this is something that is a women's center that was built in 2011, and you can see, I don't know whether, it doesn't seem to work. It was animated, but I don't think I can do it somehow. So how do I go back on this now? I don't know. Or maybe we can leave it, but it is just elevated on stilts, and so the water just flows under it, and people who are there are safe. And we have to find lots of solutions like that. It's nothing new, because you find it in so many countries where water has been part of people's lives, but they have built on stilts. There's no reason for us not to use all those techniques that are there. So now this one is my versatile log panels, which is the mainstay now of much of my work, which is all about how you can prefabricate units. Let me see if I can run it, and if the slide works. Sorry. How do I go back now? I'm sorry, I don't seem to be able to go back. Thank you. Nope. Let me try once again. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to be working. It was working before, and I somehow. Can somebody help me? Good. Thank you. So this is the prefabricated bamboo panel, which has these basically cross-bracing, but itself it's a structural panel, so it's extremely strong. And because it's modular, so it can be used in so many different ways. This is the usual standard one-room house that we are able to provide to people, and you add 2 more panels and it becomes a classroom, about 18 foot by 12 foot. And then as you add maybe 4 more panels, it becomes a kind of a squarish shape, and with a dome, it becomes really a large kind of center, a community center. And if you need more of these modules, so you add on, and then it becomes really like a village center. So it has the possibility and the potential to keep on being increased. So I thought I'd show you this particular one, if this works, which is let's see.
Thing to be put up as an emergency shelter. It's all made out of bamboo, and
was done early
tied with ropes.
2022 when the floods happened. And this is how the whole thing works, where you have we have this training center with lots of space, and that's where the panels were prefabricated. We had to do about 1,000 within a month to deliver, because there was an emergency. So this really was the same design, which can be made into permanent structures with the foundations, is now being done as a quick emergency shelter. And it can be done quite quickly and very fast, and you cover it with the reed matting that you might find, or women actually weave it. And then suddenly, you have the basic structure, and you can finish it off as you wish with lime plaster and earth, and that works pretty well. So this one was done, I think it says it was erected in about an hour and a half, but really when they finish it and do everything, if it's a permanent structure, maybe it takes about a week, but that's all, and then you have it. So that's the good thing about this particular structure. And then the same one, as you can see, is the Interbau Center, the module, the same basic prefab panels. And then these are the same kind of prefab giant panels that you can make into very large structures, like this one is, which is really like a hangar space with, it's quite
it's quite large, 57 feet wide and 80 feet long. And it doubles up as a training center for my people. And also, it is something that, we have used as for international conferences. So this huge potential in bamboo, and this is only the cheapest possible one that I'm doing, but I know you can do spectacular structures with it. So I would really urge many architects to try to, whoever have access to bamboo, to please use it. I think you'll find it to be an amazing material. Okay, so now the meat of the talk, which is now the great deluge of what happened last year in my country, 2022 flood, which is, I cannot tell you how devastating that was. So, and we know that in increasing intensity of disasters as a consequence today, the number of displaced runs into several millions. As we know, since global carbon emissions continue to climb, increasingly climate change is contributing to humanitarian crises and cycles of displacement around the world. It's not only Pakistan. And then, so in 2022 flood, extraordinary 33 million people were displaced within a matter of a week, adding not only to homelessness, but also adding substantially to the figure of 220 million people estimated to be facing food insecurity. So issue for me is, what is the strategy we need when at least 3 to 4 million households, including women and children, face disease, hunger, and homelessness? In addition to this displacement, these communities are among 50% of people living below the poverty line in my country. As we know, poverty itself inflicts helplessness in the eyes of others as well as themselves. They don't feel they have the capacity to do anything. They're led to believe that because they are displaced, they are also disabled. But that's not so. But this is what everybody believes and treats them in that manner. So it is my really believe that my target of sustainable rehabilitation of 1 million households every 2 years can only be met through decolonization and decarbonization of humanitarian assistance. Most of those, because most of those who are engaged in the humanitarian field are aware that the international colonial charity model, which treats affected communities as victims and is based on handouts, always, and which operates through clusters or silos, has not provided a sustainable solution. So much funding has been given and wasted away. Poverty levels remain worse than ever before in the world. So I put it to you that charity, although in good faith, fosters dependency and robs the receiver of self-esteem. They don't have the will anymore to do it themselves. Promotion of alien imagery and expensive materials cannot be replicated by the poor. So it's culturally, environmentally extremely damaging. And the lack of appropriate knowledge and tools, the ones that you are going to work and help with, don't give them those, then it only allows limited assistance to the needy. You cannot really provide them the help that they need. And then women are invariably left behind, even though they are the worst sufferers during any disasters. And lastly, a high administrative cost of disbursement of aid allows only a fraction to reach the affected households. So we know that this humanitarianism, which is provided with all good intentions for providing timely assistance to the displaced, is driven by donor contributions. But the funding is controlled by aid-giving agencies through INGOs or NGOs who provide assistance selectively, only what they think people need. That may not be always so. However, since human living, in my view, is not carried out in silos or compartments, the majority remain vulnerable, with the unmet needs remain unfulfilled. So this is the dilemma. So here I present to you now what I call Baza humanistic humanitarianism. It's humanistic in nature. And that leads to sustainable eco-communities. So this is the contrast. The humanistic humanitarianism that is based on the tenets of Baza, that treats community as partners, not as victims. And then it believes that there's potential in poverty. We should not disregard poverty. There can be much that can be done if you realize that the poverty is potential, basically. And then, we maximize the wide-ranging barefoot ecosystem. There's always, in many countries, more of the poor than there are of the wealthy or even middle class. So let's look at them and see how we can maximize their potential. And it really means the poorest strata of society. So the special humanitarianism is by the people, for the people, or PFP, and is driven by humanistic ideals of benevolence, compassion, and solidarity. If you recall the Renaissance teachings, that's what it was, humanism, and we need to bring it back. Now, these attributes are found in abundance among those who have been displaced and under the Baza strategy now form the driving force for knowledge sharing and guidance for fostering self-reliance among devastated communities. Knowing that there's a general deficit and most of the needs of the poor have hardly ever been met in many of our countries like mine, by the state or humanitarian organizations, the objective is to avoid displacement by spreading knowledge regarding safe structures and better quality of life. And that's where architects come in. They know how to do this, and they should be there to help them. So the PFP strategy results in the sustainable model, as it relies on empowering communities through knowledge sharing and training in barefoot sustainable zero carbon methodologies of the 4 zeros. So you can see my 4 zeros there, which is zero carbon, zero waste, now also zero donor, which leads to zero poverty. And then there are also 3 no's. No to handouts, no to cement, and no to steel. We don't want it. So, in contrast to the international model relying on funds and handouts, the Baza strategy is conducted by trained, barefoot eco-entrepreneurs who are committed to improve the quality of life for their compatriots, as indeed they have been able to do under Baza PFP. So, thinking that Pakistan's strategy, as in the past, would encourage sufficient assistance from INGOs, NGOs, the UN system, and donor agencies, in December last year, I launched my strategy of building my holistic model with a low cost of $150 per family. The cost of the one room, among those other elements that were to be provided, is one room house that costs only $100. This is all in bamboo, of course, and the one that I showed you. So which would build sustainable eco-communities of 1 million households per 2 years. So, as you can see, I'd worked on this particular map of Sindh. That's my province where I come from, which is the most devastated province in the whole of Pakistan. And so I worked out exactly how the hubs could be created, how there could be training going on, and then other partners would take up and they will just spread the whole thing and spend very little money. So you see, I'd calculated that with the cost of zero carbon methodologies, 1 million could be rehabilitated at a cost of $150 million. And I thought INGs will take 1/3, NGOs, and then UN system could take 1/3, and the rest could be bank loans even, and we could accept that. But anyhow, I'm sorry to say that it didn't quite happen that way. And today, the world banks of the world are now persuading my government to really go in for cement concrete blocks and concrete structures and burnt brick structures. So they're going the same way as high carbon route, and they will build, so far they built only a few hundred, but maybe they'll get to 30,000 families, and that'll be about it. So it's not really going to solve much of a problem. So as my organization embarked on the massive rehabilitation effort, I had grappled with many concerns. One was, could we achieve a paradigm shift in the culture of giving from handouts to self-reliance and directing allocations to community groups? Very difficult. Everybody wanted to give me any amount of money I wanted, but not really wanting to give it to the poor. So it's going on, but it's starting, and the support is trickling in, which is wonderful to see. And then the second was, could we scale up the Baza model without seeking government resources and foster community empowerment? So you will see in my next slides that the community-driven strategy is bearing fruit now. Thirdly, could we implement low-cost, cross-cutting themes to achieve SDGs? Now, Pakistan ranks 129 out of 193, so we're really very low. But we are moving to attain about 12 SDGs. So the fourth was, could we assure sustainable rehabilitation by pooling community resources, training and capacity building? So yes, through this process, we are able to achieve now outreach in many thousands of households, and I'll show you how. And then fifth is, could we empower communities to govern or utilize community social funds? We are creating all these village funds by people themselves. And yes, now loans are being given out, something like 30 have been given out to about $35 loans, and within 4 months there are substantial earnings, so it can happen. And then sixth was, could we achieve regeneration of local economy by building capacity of local entrepreneurs, especially women? And yes, we have trained about 400 barefoot entrepreneurs in these last few months who have now substantial monthly earnings through transfer of knowledge and expertise to the destitute. So it can happen. It's within communities, within the poor who are doing all this. So now what process did I adopt? So that's what I would like to present to you. Okay, so I originally designed the holistic model requiring a sponsorship of $150 per household, as I said, but as you will see, only limited progress of 4,485 households was achieved in 6 months. So that was really too little, huh? So I was compelled to design a zero donor model, which I will talk about a little later. But first, the holistic model. So in order to test the waters, we embarked on a pilot in September 2022, which was based on integrated rehabilitation of 1,000 families. So with stage one, as you will see, rights-based primary needs of one safe room, one shared eco toilet, one shared hand pump, and shared solar panels, along with self-built earthen Pakistan chula for clean food. And then stage two would be food security, and then next would be the, next would be, well, I went too fast, but not to worry. So then there was stage third and fourth. You can see here the various elements of stage one and stage two, right? I mean, what all is being able to achieve. And so stage three would be basically flood mitigation measures based on experience of no flood walking streets that I've designed in Karachi that we tested last year. And now I'm using many of those techniques for making disaster resilient community features such as aquifer wells, community forests, and porous pavements. And stage four will be dedicated to income generation, and that's also happening. It's based on zero carbon, zero waste strategy. And then the last one would be stage five, where they are now saving money to be able to also build the social infrastructure. One clinic has been built, and a school has also been built, which is by the community by itself. So it's possible to mobilize, and they can do it themselves. So, and there are some of the pictures of the first pilot that we conducted. Left is when everything was submerged. The second is now, after about 6 months, how it's flourishing. And then this is the basic structure, how, what they got. And then they erected that, and then, the matting is woven by women themselves, and then they beautify them. As you can see, each one is personalized. And then you see on the left how many different, each village now has different motifs, has different ways of decorating their own houses and the other elements. They're all made out of earth, and now their agriculture is flourishing there. And you can see now there are a few thousand households now that have become self-reliant. And, but as I said, not enough. It is just a drop in the ocean. So I was then forced to devise my Zero Donor Villages program, which aims first at food security and in subsequent stages, incremental development as a result of small daily savings of 14 pence per day and other meager resources by households themselves. And women, again, are in the forefront. They're the ones who are saving. They're the ones who are really supporting this venture in a big way. So considering the state of poverty and deprivation in the area, at that time it seemed such a foolish dream because how could the displaced population with literally zero resources be rehabilitated through their own effort? But I'm pleased to report to you that it's working. I had no choice if the displaced had to achieve at least the basic minimum living conditions. So in April 2023, I initiated my zero donor model just 3 months ago, which means that the villages are paying for all facilities themselves and also pay small amounts to the barefoot entrepreneurs for providing training for various activities. So while close to today, 50,000 families are on their way to achieve food security, At least 20% have begun building their own toilets, and the same number have embarked on savings for building one-room houses. So if you see on the left is how the whole structure works. Every month we are starting 2 brigades who are, each one has about 24 barefoot entrepreneurs who are being trained and each is tasked with 100 villages or 6,000 households per month. And it's entirely a self-sustaining model, as the bees, by earning a small fee of 10 or 20 cents per household, are beginning to earn substantial amounts due to the scale of the operation. There are so many thousands, so they earn a lot. In the graphic on the left, you can see how the 2 new brigades have begun their operations every month. And now, as I said, we have to reach the target of 500,000 in 12 months, 500,000 families. We may not get there quite, but I think we'll be very close, and we'll make up in the next year. And the graphic on the right, you'll all have to come and see that sometime to Pakistan. And the graphic on the right, the sequence of movement of every bee of each brigade in order to focus on providing a particular expertise to help communities acquire the skills necessary to become food secure in stage 1, and so on and so on. And then they start building incrementally as they save money, and that's possible then. Because now it's in their own hands. They don't have to look for anybody or any help from outside. So now you can see the first destitute have now learned the skills of and continue to build as and when their means allow. This strategy has proved that people may be displaced, but they could be enabled to rise above adversity with their own effort. That's very important to know the capacity that people have, actually. And then the entire concept is based on spreading skills and knowledge, sharing with as large a number as possible. So this is this is how we do conduct training for these villages. And just a glimpse of one of the videos. We conduct many of these workshops, and women are equal partners. They learn to read drawings, they learn to tackle equipment, and they work with bamboo, and also with many other crafts actually that are needed. So this is what we've been doing, and very quickly to go to, this is again a whole lot of them who've been trained, and you see we have lots of posters, we have SOPs in Urdu, the whole teaching program that goes on, and every barefoot entrepreneur that goes has been trained, so they are able to really impart huge amount of knowledge. And so it goes quite well that way. And then, so now I have to, and I urge everybody to think about that a little bit, that we can have the 4 zeros. How can we have the 4 zeros? 0 carbon, 0 waste, 0 donor, leading to 0 poverty, for saving humanity and saving the planet through humanistic humanitarianism. And we can see that it can be done, it is possible, and the more we do it, the more it is likely that we might be able to somehow safeguard this planet. We have only one of them. So, so I wanted to ask you, what do you think? Might I yet achieve my dream of rehabilitating 1 million households at a time? I need to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And you sit in the sofa,
Okay.
and then will you take the question?
Thank you. I mean, I'll just have to take it.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And as you will see from where we are in time, an important thing for you, Yasmeen, was to engage with the people here, because it's the exchange that hopefully can help spread the message and get more work done. So we now have 25 minutes, and I really hope a lot of you would like to ask a question or share a reflection. Doesn't have to be a question. With Yasmeen, we have 2 microphones, one in each of the corridors. I have my colleague Ingeborg here, and we have the first question. But just to say, you're welcome to get up and stand behind one of the microphones. And if somebody from the middle of a row wants to ask a question, please, the rest of the row, help that person get out to the microphone so that we can get the comments. But the word is yours.
Both shukriya. Thank you so much for this high-density, incredible talk and presentation of your work, and for taking the slogan of the Congress, leave no one behind, of putting everybody forward. in Pakistan and wherever else will have impact. And your Heritage Foundation is becoming not a heritage, but it's a heritage for the future. You're creating the heritage of today for the future. Thank you so much.
And we have another question or reflection.
Thank you, Yasmeen, ma'am. My name is Ruchi.
I can't see you.
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, she's right here.
Ah, okay.
We interacted the day one when you were calling all the young architects to ask us how can we do what we want to do. And I am so inspired just to look at the scale, because our countries, the numbers are so different that a small intervention really helps huge. So I run a design non-profit in India, helping children's worldview come to reality and create humankind. And that's what my organization is called. My question comes from your early years. I transitioned to become a design non-profit after working for 15 years in spaces, and you were building for the wealthy. I have a lot of interns, young interns, who want to jump into social design and impact just at outset of the design practice. And what message or how can we create that enabling environment so that there is choice and it's not always an affordability debate, and you leave your dreams on one side and you start pursuing the path of feeding your family, and feeding the planet comes once you have the potential to make a choice. So as a young architect and a young social entrepreneur, would like to know, how do we create this enabling environment? Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful that you asked this question. And I must say, Ingeborg, it was a most enlightening experience to sit with these young women, particularly, and there were, of course, young men as well, but mostly it's the women who put that Rebuilding Pavilion together, and I was just so impressed. But also, so many of you are doing things, which nobody in my experience earlier on ever did that, which is to try and even give up your own career at that very young age and to try to do something for people. And I think this is what we've been discussing, basically, how to reach out to young people, how to provide support to them. I think it is now a duty for our generation, and younger ones, of course, I'm far too old, but others, to see how they can take it as a mainstream work and also get paid for it. Because it's very unfair for you people to try to raise money, but also do this work, as if, like you're on the sidelines. Why are you on the sidelines? You should be up in the, right up front. And we should all be helping you to be able to do that. So I think what would be wonderful, really, if you were all to give some ideas. And I'm sure that, we can think about all this. And there are powerful organizations like the UIA. There's also all the institutes all over the world. There's also the RIBA. There's also CA and so many. So I think you should need to now pressure them to find a way for you, I think.
Beautiful answer. And the next question or reflection is from this side here.
I want to thank you for a very inspiring talk, not just about the actions that you've taken, but also clearly a great thinker. I'm a Canadian Norwegian who happens to live in the United States, where we have our own challenges of poverty and lack of dignity and lack of hope. And I'm wondering if you have thoughts about how this model or these ideas about how to reach a large group of people and provide tools and opportunities might be applicable to countries where the regulatory framework, the building codes, the buildings, the construction methods, and environment kind of puts a halt to some of these more bottom-up strategies.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Your concerns are very valid because we've seen that somehow, I mean, people do it with the goodness of their heart, so we can't really doubt their intentions. But I think, and I feel it's all very hard-earned money that is invested, or people think that will do some good, but it's the opposite that's true for most of the time. So I really believe that the best thing would be somehow for us to create a mechanism by which anybody who wants to help can help directly. Why should there be intermediaries? And I keep on saying this, but I still haven't found a solution. If there were some young tech sort of experts who could tell us or create a kind of a, I call it a humanitarian interchange, a kind of a humanitarian Amazon or eBay, where people say, well, I need something, and there's somebody else who says, okay, we can provide it for you, because the world needs all this. And we go through this whole mire of, fundraising, and then intermediaries, and then the state, which we don't know, it's like a black hole. So I think that maybe this is something we should really think very deeply about, because money is not the issue. There's a lot of money in the world, but it's got to be directed in a manner that it really is beneficial. And if it can be done through kind, but also through trainings, through knowledge sharing. I mean, what I keep on missing is that there's so much good work going on in so many different places and by so many really people who are committed, but we don't know much about it. So if there could be a kind of a depository or a kind of a networking or something like that which could make it happen, then we can all be much wiser and we don't have to start from scratch every time.
I think there was also in that question something about, you were talking with the big humanitarian organizations, and that's also true for some wealthy states, that the infrastructure of rules and regulations and building laws can become, they are meant to raise the bar, but they can become a barrier for people to themselves to be able to do something. It becomes then illegal that you did something to your own house that improved it. And then we should be able to help remove those barriers for people themselves to act in their own situation.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that. You're absolutely right, because it hampers so many things, because people are looking for codes which are antiquated, which are not relevant anymore. And I think maybe, again, the institutes can play a very important role in this by working on legislation, on bylaws that will be more realistic. And, there has to be a difference, especially in my own country, where I know well what you do in the rural area, it doesn't have to be applied to the urban area. But in the urban area also, apart from seeing that you have a strong structure, why can't we be doing urban mining and using all the waste material? There's so much there. And I mean, in my country, in my city, Karachi, there's more than 50% are in slums. Yeah. And as architects, we have a duty to go there now resolve those issues. And again, legislation, bylaws, everything will play a very important role in that. So we need to be, I mean, every institute really now has some sort of a duty now, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Yasmeen dear, thank you. It's Sami here from the UK. I don't know if you recognize me.
Hello,
thank
hello.
you so much for your work, your talk. I'm so happy you came. I actually visited, visited the Makli village in 2019, and I saw firsthand with the Inbal team. We saw firsthand the work that you're doing, and you so eloquently described. It's quite interesting, actually, and it's a comment that I'm trying to say here, that the architect as a profession is a bit of is a new profession in our regional cultural background. The architect comes from a very Eurocentric typology. And what really stood out for me, and this is credit to you, and I want to share this with everyone here, and it's a really message to take home, is when I was there in the Makli village seeing you, it was how you are complete with the people. It's not like a top-down approach. The way you were speaking with the people, you're engaging with them, for me that was so fascinating. And I think there's so many architects here that can really take away this, and because we tend to go, with the swagger, and but seeing you, on site, it was really fantastic, and I took a lot from that, and thank you, and that's a lesson for everyone as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. we need to bring everybody to Pakistan now. That's what it has to be, right?
Yeah. It is, and my wife, just for my wife, she couldn't make it. She wants to say hello to you. And I'll just make it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Yasmeen Lari. Thank you so very much for your life's work and your offering your talk here today in the age of what I've calculated to be 80 plus. I can only aspire to be like you.
Oh,
my name is Sylvie Le Musique. I'm from Norway, and I've been hanging out at the Nordic Pavilion trying to raise discussions around regenerative leadership and hearing all voices. And so I've heard you mentioning how, the discussion, the discourse around decolonization, and I am very much trying to bring it to the architectural diaspora. Denmark is still a colonial power to Greenland. Norway is still a colonial power to the Sami territory. And there is so much wounding, and there is so much ignorance still. And they obviously have so much to teach us because they have been leading the land exemplary for thousands of years. And so I wonder if you can speak to the Northern Hemisphere colonialism so that we can decolonize also through architecture.
Okay, yeah, it's an excellent question. For me, of course, we went through the whole period of 150 years when we were ruled by Great Britain, and it's affected deeply our psyche as to how we behave, because we all feel that somebody else must come and do something for us, but it doesn't happen with independent nations. So I think with architecture also, why are we following this whole system of being commissioned? Because unless you're commissioned, you don't feel that you can operate. I don't understand that, because if you see injustice anywhere, you would want to go and do something about it. So when you see ecological injustice or see people living in circumstances which could be better, why can't we find a way for architects to go and step in and be able to help them? I mean, I think that will liberate our mind a little bit. It means, of course, changing all the rules, perhaps, of what an architect is. And maybe we should rethink the role of the architect. We should rethink how we should be trained now, or the young people. I mean, I think they're asking for another way of working. And all of us, and I think this Congress is such a wonderful event, actually, when so many people are thinking in similar manner. And I think the hope that you brought in is that there's so many young people here who will be the ones who will change and who are the ones who really want to change. And they are much more conscious of what's happening around them than many of the older generation. I mean, if I had never been involved in disaster areas, I would never have known. I never knew what's happening in the world, because we all live in our own little ivory towers. So I think maybe we all need to just step out and see what we can do and change the systems, basically.
Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Marco Sosa, and I'm a British architect. I was born in El Salvador. I'm here.
Oh, you're okay.
Okay. And I'm currently teaching in Abu Dhabi, just to show how multi-global we are. But
you,
I met you earlier in the week. It was a great honor for me, and thank you for being here, trying to also just showing your work, but also making everyone understand that we have to immerse ourselves and understand the context and all the climatic components that actually are part of these sites, and it's something that architects don't often do. My question is regarding if you could share with us if there is any stories, or how did you tackle, if there was any friction from authorities, also from manufacturers as well, concrete block manufacturers, or even local charities or NGOs, or how did they react to your approach? Were they welcoming, or were they somehow? I'm sorry for asking this question.
No, that's a good question, but I was just eyeing both of these beautiful queues of wonderful people and looking at the clock.
Yeah.
So what I would like is that, because I know you want to hear all the people who right now are standing up, so the people standing out now will be the people who get a chance to speak. And I would suggest that we hear all the reflections or questions together, and then you give a final remark so that you get, because what you said, and which I think matters so much, is that you want to hear the thoughts and reflections of the people here. So we want you to take that with you. So, and then you...
But if I may also say that rather than just saying what I should think should be done, why aren't you coming up with suggestions? Why aren't you saying this is what we want to happen, you know? And you're the young people, you know that you can do it. I mean, then come on, tell us, because, you know, we have people listening to you now. So say, what do you think should be done? What do we do with manufacturers? Why can't we help them to change?
And now we want those 6 more people standing in line to get a chance to speak. So your question and the next 6 questions, you will address them all at once.
Right, okay.
So please, the next one here.
Okay. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. I'm here. I'm from India, and my name is Intikhab Alam, and it's a great opportunity to hear you in person. My questions are like many, but I would like restrict it to 2. One is like regarding you being, you know, a female architect, and especially, you know, in global South area, like the region that, and there's a lot of taboo associated with, you know, women architects, and like I can see that in my part of the country, you know, where even the contractors would not listen to, you know, women telling them or what to do at site. So, you know, these kinds of problems are persistent over there. So how did you overcome, you know, like these barriers, like in your practice? And the second question is regarding the disaster related issues that you tackle with your practice, because most of the disaster that we are seeing in our part, especially I come from Delhi, New Delhi, and
I'm sorry, but if the other 5 people are also to speak within the next 5 minutes, please conclude the question.
I will be very short. So how we are living in an era where, you know, disasters are not happening, you know, but we are living in disasters, like especially climate change and heat wave. So, you know, like what do you suggest, you know, like in these parts, because we cannot wait for a disaster to happen and then work on that particular part. But now, you know, as young practitioners, what all can we do to overcome these hurdles? Yeah, thank you so much.
Very important questions, and we hear the next reflections or questions together.
Thanks for your inspiring presentation. I'm from Bangladesh, and I also sit here. I'm here in this side. Your left-hand side.
No, I'm trying to. Did you see?
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So I teach the specialist subject, which is environmental architecture in the UK, and also teach students how important is the thermal mass, which you said about the art, using art, because people forget thermal mass is so important for environmental performance. So and also I work for the garments factory workers as well. Thermal mass is also important in that way. The question is that what you think we should do for the young generations who I'm teaching to more important about using the material very conscious way, not only ecological manner, but also environmental performance-wise as well. So if anyone can add anything to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we go to the other side.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Jawad Alam, and I'm working with the city of Copenhagen, securing holistic solutions for the development of areas in the city, this beautiful city. I have actually a Pakistani background. Ethnically, my parents migrated to Denmark in the early 70s, and I'm born and raised here. So I have kind of interest in both cases, because Denmark is the country I live, and Pakistan is originally where my parents are from. Really inspiring to listen to the good work you're doing and introduce us to the BASA model. So I was thinking that now when we are talking about sustainable solutions, building solutions for the poor, why not talk about sustainable planning solutions for the poor? Many of those areas hit by disasters are usually affected because they are, erected in areas where they're not meant to be. So maybe we should have the governments get in dialogue with the governments to allocate land for maybe some suitable areas where we can do some planning on a basic grid to educate the people, to secure better livelihoods for the people and improve their living standards, maybe, could be a way ahead. I've done it very short, so I'll skip all the rest. So maybe we need a national and international plan to develop such a work. Thank you very much.
Fantastic reflection, and we move to the young man here in the striped shirt.
Yes, hello, my name is Zach. I'm from the United States, and I'm also living in Sweden right now. I want to thank you. I'm going to try to keep this under 20 seconds because I know we're on a time commitment. One thing that you have mentioned over and over again are that the students are learning, and I'm a lifelong learner myself. I hope many of you in the room are. But I see, like you, at the beginning of your career, we were building these big monstrosity buildings that are heavy carbon, and I think that happens a lot in the school as well. It happened in my studies. And then you get out into the world and you realize that there are these other happenings and there are other ways that we can use architecture. And so I would love to encourage any educators in the room to bring that into your practice, bring that into your classrooms, have those projects. And one solution that I'm helping to bring to the table is Ubuntu ASAP, where we're helping to build for the other in South Africa. And so there are young people who are coming to the table and trying to do things that we're maybe not at the level that you are at, but we hope to be someday in your chair. So thank you for being here.
Sure. Wonderful questions, yeah.
Hello, Yasmeen. My name is Fatima. It's a really random comment I'm giving you guys, so I'm so sorry. I'm still in high school, but I'm really interested in studying architect, and you really inspire me, and I'm so glad you had the prettiest, and I learned so much from you today, and actually from all of your architects here, and thank you so much for this amazing presentation.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeppe Bennett Krabbe. I'm a local architect. I'm trying to cut it short. So I was thinking the whole day yesterday, for me, all the comments that really was touching me was that I think that we as architects need to focus less on buildings and more on communities. I heard Francis Carré talk yesterday about we need to work with what we have in abundance. And he was talking about wood and clay, and what I saw he had in abundance in Burkina Faso was community. And it made me feel that in these so-called wealthy countries, we also have a poverty. We have a poverty in communities. So I was wondering, how could we make this transition work both ways? That we could also have a that you could teach us about communities. Thank you.
And the very final comment or question.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning, ma'am. I'm from the Philippines. I'm Zeus. I have just a direct question. We know that we have very similar places where disaster strikes every time. So my question is, for the people in our country where we don't have much education, how do we persuade those people to let them stand for themselves? And maybe make them more sustainable, and what are the techniques aside from education, because we know that education, it takes a long time. If we're having a deadline for the global warming and the climate change, so how can we fast track making the people themselves work from themselves? So that's my question.
Yeah, good.
And we are already a little over time, but please give you a concluding remark. You will not have time to answer all the questions, but I think just them being the reflections and questions shared, just them being shared is part of the conversation.
Yeah, sure. I think they were all excellent questions, and I think you brought up some very fundamental issues here. I think the one particularly about women, how they're not being listened to, but it's happening not only in countries in the South Asia, but I think in many other places as well. I think we need to give more support to women. I think this is probably the responsibility of our menfolk who are out in there. And women should just know that they have to fight a battle, and they must be ready for that. So it's not going to be easy for women, I think maybe for even next years. And so I know that women can be very strong, they can be very resilient also, and they just have to do that. There were a couple of questions about, talk about how, basically how we can tell the poor or get them. There was one particular one that is a little bit, I think, of concern to me, because a lot of times as professionals we feel that the poor have a choice. So why are they in that state? Why can't they move? And that's because the states don't, none of the states that I know of in the global south is supportive of the poor. So how can they find a place where they can be safe? There's no way. If they did, why would they not do it? So I think as architects we feel we can control things, but the fact is we cannot. So, and especially when you're talking of these very large numbers, then I think we have to find ways to help them by, like I've done with just getting all the waste from the area. I mean, why I can now do something in my zero donor model now is 1/5 of the cost of my bamboo structure, which I know they can afford, but I'm using all the waste material from everywhere. So we have to tell them how they can live better with the conditions that are there. And all the, I heard the question of people who are teaching. I think, we need to be looking at curriculum. We have to see how to revise that. We have to see how we expand the horizon for architects. It's not that a few people have to do it. All of us have to do it, because all of you have come here with a mission. Because I think this was a cry for help today, if you want, saying let's have sustainability, let's talk about the SDGs, because all of us need to now help out in our own way, wherever we are. How do we, now that we are here and we've heard so many really very important people who are really out there in the field working, how do we all help each other? How do we strengthen whatever is being done? And certainly, I feel very strongly we need to just give a lot of help to young people, because we don't have to tell them that we are in trouble. They know that it's a different world, and they want to do something. But
I think that will be the final comment.
Yes.
That we need that action, and we must support the action where it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience, and thank you very much for all of you.